YouTube. This is my first ever ASMR video, and I'm going to do a video on this synthesizer, which is the Moog Sub 37. It's a monophonic synthesizer, although Moog actually call it a paraphonic synthesizer. We'll get into that later. For now, think of it as a monophonic synthesizer, analog. And what that means is, unlike a piano where you can hold down, say, a C, an E, and a G piano key at the same time, and you get a C major chord, on a monophonic synthesizer, it's like you can only hit one piano string at a time. So when you hit the C and then you hit the E, the C string stops vibrating immediately, and now you only hear the E string of the piano. And then when you hit the G key, the E string stops vibrating, and now you only hear the G string vibrating. But of course, an analog synthesizer doesn't have any strings. What it has instead are oscillators. Now, an oscillator is just a electric circuit which, when you pass a current through it, will oscillate the output voltage in a certain pattern. Now, I wish I had my oscilloscope hooked up so I could show you some more about this, but for now, just take a listen to one pure oscillator, and I'll talk through the different types, and it'll give you maybe a sense of what I'm talking about. So, okay, let's do a volume check here. I'm going to turn everything off except for oscillator 1, and I'm going to set it to a saw wave, and then I'm going to hold down, can you see this? Where's my hand? Here's my hand. So I'm going to hold down this C key, and I'm going to slowly bring up the volume. Oops. I have my reverb and delay pedals turned on, so you're not really hearing the pure sound. Let me do that again. So I'm just going to turn up the volume on the oscillator, and slowly you will hear that buzzy C note, and we can play a scale. Right, but if I hold down, I don't know how well you can see this, but if I hold down 3 keys, as in piano keys, keyboard keys at the same time, you won't hear a chord. You'll only hear one note. In this case, I think you're hearing the C, right? Yeah. But if I held it down a different way, you would hear the last note played, last note priority. So basically, this keyboard would mainly be used for either lead sounds or bass sounds, because in both cases, if you think about it, think about a lead instrument like a saxophone, it can also only play one note at a time, or a bass guitar pretty much only plays one note at a time. So that's what this instrument is mainly used for, leads and basses. It can also be used for like some crazy squelchy robot science fiction sounds, but maybe we'll get into that later. So at the moment, all you're hearing is oscillator 1, which is, like I say, electric circuit. When you pass voltage into it, the output voltage, if you view it on a graph, goes like this. It goes straight up, then saw down, then straight up, then saw down, then straight up, then saw down. And that's what gives it that buzzy quality. If we go to a triangle wave, which is ramp up, ramp down, ramp up, ramp down, then it sounds a bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? A bit more soft. Yeah, there's less of that buzz to it. So let's hear what the triangle wave sounds like. That's also a C note. And you can, of course, morph between the two types of waveform. So from triangle, we slowly morph into saw, and you can hear that buzz coming through. Now, although an oscillator is, like I said, an electric circuit designed to produce a specific waveform shape, there is an analog in real life. So all sound can be considered to be composed of a bunch of sine waves. A sine wave, I'm sure you know, is the classic roundy wave form. Like, you know, if you took a slice of a ripple in a pond, that would be sine waves, you know, the classic wobbly waveform. And if you take sine waves of different frequencies and compile them together, the resulting waveform will look like it has a different shape. But, you know, I guess it's a bit of a philosophical point. In a sense, a triangle wave consists of a bunch of, I want to say this correct, odd numbered harmonics of sine waves. I could be wrong on that one. A saw wave is, I think, the even numbered harmonics, and a square wave is all the harmonics. I can't, to be honest, I can't remember off the top of my head right now, but the wave shape is a good visual way to think about it, and you can make your associations between the visual shape and the sound that you hear. But in a sense, in a mathematical sense, if you break it down into sine waves, there's different things going on. Now, why does any of that matter? Well, depending on the shape of the real world instrument that you're trying to replicate, and you're not always trying to replicate a real world instrument, don't get me wrong. Like, if you're making those weird science fiction sounds, yeah, there's no instrument that sounds like that. But in some cases, you're trying to get something that sounds a bit like brass, or a bit like a guitar, or a bit like a flute. And in those cases, of course, you can just use your ears and your experience. That's absolutely fine. But it can also make sense or be interesting, I find it interesting, to figure out why a flute sounds the way it does in the first place, or why a piano sounds the way it does in the first place. And that's to do with, you know, the oscillator of the piano is a string struck by a hammer. The oscillator of a flute is a vibrating column of air inside a wooden tube or steel tube, whatever the hell flutes are made out of. So, yeah, I mean, I'd need diagrams to explain this properly, but there's lots of great videos on YouTube about it. In some cases, based on the physical construction of the instrument, either the even numbered harmonics get cancelled out, or the odd number get cancelled out, or some kind of proportion of even and odds get cancelled out because of destructive interference, which again you can check up on that. And that's one of the major components to what gives an instrument its characteristic sound. So we're going to go, there's 4 main groups of waves, well, 5 I guess. There's the sine wave, which is a very pure sounding tone. This instrument doesn't directly do a pure sine wave, but I'll do one later with a bit of a trick. We've got the triangle wave, which you heard is quite kind of clear. The saw wave is quite buzzy. The square wave, which you can't see, it's over here behind. The square wave is also buzzy, but it has a lot more bottom end, and I think it sounds a bit more metallic than the saw wave. And then we have what some people call pulse wave, or a pulse wave, or I guess rectangle wave. Do some people call it rectangle wave? Anyway, there's different ways of calling this one. I think of it as a square wave which has had its pulse width modulated, but that's another story. We'll come back to that later as well. Anyway, I don't know how ASMR this is. I'm trying to talk soft, but yeah, that might not be enough for some people. I'm very picky about my ASMR, so we'll see. Anyway, back to the waves. So let's just again come on gently with the oscillator. I hope this volume is going to be okay. So triangle, we move around to saw, you can hear it buzzing some more. We keep moving around towards square. So again, this is pure square now. It's buzzy, but it has that kind of metallic, I don't know, metallic or bell quality. And we keep going around to rectangle or pulse wave. Sorry, brain is not clued in 100% here. That might be a little bit too loud. I hope I haven't ruined the whole video. Okay, so they're the 4 classic waves, right? I'm just going to do it one more time. Triangle, saw, square, pulse. Okay, pulse to me sounds a bit kind of tinny and reedy, like an oboe or something like that. But at the moment, all of these frequencies, the bass sine wave plus all the odds and even harmonics, they're all stacked up to infinity. It's actually not infinity because the synthesizer stops at about 20 kilohertz. But yeah, in theory, just think about it as if it's all the harmonics stacked up to infinity. But in reality, that never happens. Or at least the human ear can't tell when it does happen, because our hearing also cuts off at 20 kilohertz, and that's if you're young and you have really good hearing. My hearing now drops out, I don't know, like 10 kilohertz, 12 kilohertz, something like that. And that's on a good day with really loud volume. So the next thing to consider is the filter. And if you think, if you have a coffee filter, you pour in a mixture of water and coffee grounds, but the filter takes out all the coffee grounds and only lets the water pass through. The filter does a similar trick, except it filters out the high frequencies. So when this knob is all the way up, or the filter is fully open, then it lets everything pass through. But as you bring this knob around, slowly but surely it filters off 20 kilohertz, 15 kilohertz, 12 kilohertz, 500 hertz, blah, 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 all the way down to 20 hertz. Now, my speakers in this room won't go anywhere near 20 hertz, so you won't be able to hear that. But if you had a proper system with a subwoofer, etc., you certainly would be able to feel the 20 hertz and kind of hear it. It's like those rumbles in the cinema, you know, if you have a big sound system in a cinema or whatever. Where was I? So, yeah, what I'm going to do now is just do a quick demonstration of a filter sweep on, let's pick the saw wave, because it's the buzziest, so it's the most obvious when it happens. So again, just a simple C note on the saw wave, and I'm going to close the filter down slowly. And I've just realized I've got an LFO active, which I didn't mean to have, so I'm going to cancel that. Let me start that again, apologies. Fully open, slowly chopping off the high frequencies, which basically has the same effect as rounding off the sharp edges on the waveform, which has the effect of making it seem less buzzy. Now, you might think to yourself, well, no, it's just lowering the note. But it's not lowering the note. This is still a C note. If you try to hum to this, or this, or this, it's the same fundamental note. So when you hum, you'll hum the same pitch every time. If you're, you know, a good singer or whatever, you have a good ear, you'll hum the same pitch every time. But it seems, in a kind of a psychoacoustic sense, that the pitch is getting lower until you get used to it. But it's really not. It's just that the higher overtones are being filtered out, but the fundamental pitch remains the same. Now, one interesting thing on the triangle wave, actually anyway, but it's easier to demonstrate on a triangle wave. As you filter off, because a triangle wave already kind of has the structure, where do I need to be here? Already kind of has this my god, what's the word I'm looking for? Symmetric, thank you brain. Symmetric aspect to it, unlike say for example the saw wave, and a sine wave similarly has this nice symmetry, and as you start to chop off the higher frequencies of the triangle wave and make it more roundy, you actually turn it into a sine wave. So this is a fully open triangle wave, and I'm filtering, and then you probably can't really hear that now, and that's pretty close to a pure sine wave. And let me go up a bit higher actually. So again, I don't have my oscilloscope, but if we did, that would be pretty close to a pure sine wave right there. Okay, I've been rambling on for 15 minutes and I have no idea if my sound is going to be good or not. And I also know I've coughed twice, which I need to edit out. So I think I'm going to stop there. If this video doesn't completely suck, I'm going to upload it as a test video. I hope it gives somebody some ASMR. But if you have any suggestions, like I have a bunch of proper audio equipment here, but it's a royal pain in the ass to wire everything up, so just for pure convenience sake for now, I'm just going to use my iPhone's headset microphone. So sound quality I can work on, and I probably will work on eventually, but for now that's not the kind of feedback I'm looking for. I'm looking for feedback about, you know, am I speaking too fast? I think I was a couple of times. Am I speaking too loud? I don't know, anything, whatever strikes you. I'm, on the one hand, obviously want to make ASMR easy for myself, the making of these videos easy for myself, so I'm not going to do any wacky putting on funny voices or anything. I'm just going to try and talk as naturally as I can, albeit soft-spoken. But if there's anything, you know, relatively minor that might make a difference, please let me know, and I'll try and take it into consideration. I've been part of the ASMR community I've been enjoying everyone else's content without contributing for years now. I think, my God, how long? 6-7 years maybe. Certainly I was there when Maria came onto the scene. Before that, before I encountered the term ASMR and knew about ASMR videos, I used to listen a lot to Judith Ayala has a review of the no hair removal, whatever the hell it is. How I ever stumbled on that video, I have no idea. I mean, I'm a hairy guy, but I've never been interested in removing my hair. Well, I don't know how I ever ended up on that video, but man, it used to blow my head off and send me to sleep so often, which was awesome. So yeah, I guess it sounds cheesy, but honestly I just like to give something back, because some people, myself included, are so specific on what's going to trigger them, that I think it's great to have as much varied content out there with different voices, pitches, topics, whatever, and hopefully it'll work for someone. I'm not trying to, you know, make this my new job or anything like that. I may never make another video as long as I live, who knows, but I just thought I'd like to throw this out there and see how it goes. Anyway, thanks everyone. That's nearly 20 minutes now, so it should be enough to send some of you to sleepy time.